All right, welcome. Today we are going to be practicing looking from different soldiers' points of view. Now we've talked a little bit about point of view this year, but I wanted to review that point of view is one's general manner of viewing things or somebody's attitude about something. And we know from a lot of our conversations with the Phantom Toll Booth that people can have different points of view. They can think about things different, have different attitudes about the same thing, or view things differently. So we're going to be thinking about some key similarities and differences between the northern and the southern soldiers' points of view about different realities of the war. So first, I just want us to think about why our primary sources like photographs and journals and diary entries and letters home, why are primary sources or first-hand accounts useful in analyzing soldiers' points of view about the war? So we've been calling them primary sources, meaning that all of the information is coming right from people that were there. And another word for that is first-hand accounts. So when you hear this, first-hand accounts, it's the same thing as primary sources. And so we know that these are really useful in analyzing their points of view because we can see the things that they are thinking, feeling, and believing, and that's essentially someone's point of view. And so being able to see how these soldiers are thinking and feeling and believing about things can help us really understand their perspective and their point of view. So we're going to work on inferring what the soldiers' different points of view are using some of the things that they're saying today. So in order to get ready, please get out your Handout A from your Wit and Wisdom book. If you need to, pause the video so that you can get it out quick, and we are going to do the first half together. All right, hopefully you have Handout A out. These are the steps that we are going to be using for analyzing points of view. We're going to be using them for Handout 8A, but we're also going to use these steps later on in the module to analyze points of view in different parts of the book. So our first step is we are going to read each soldier's first-hand account, one from the north, one from the south. Then we're going to annotate words and phrases that show soldiers' feelings or opinions. So we'll highlight it or underline it in your book. Then we're going to infer or make an educated assumption about each soldier's feelings and opinions. And then we'll explain how the soldiers' points of view are similar and or different. So let's get started. All right, so I have a picture here of Handout 8A. Hopefully this is what you're seeing. The first aspect of war we're going to look at together is uniforms. So we know that both sides in the Civil War needed matching uniforms. First, we'll read the Northern soldiers' first-hand account, then we'll read the Southern soldiers' first-hand account. So here's what the Northern soldier said. My trousers were too long by 3 or 4 inches. My shirt was coarse and unpleasant, too large at the neck, and too short elsewhere. The cap was an ungainly bag with pasteboard top and leather visor, while the overcoat made me feel like a little nubbin of corn in a large husk. Nothing ever took down my ideas of military pomp quite so low. All right, now let's look at the Southern soldier's perspective. I was not very tall, and caps and drawers were in short supply, so they went to the older, bigger men. I did not mind this, and was happy with what I had, which was what I had brought from home, until the sergeant came to me and said, "Do you want to be taken for a Yankee in all that blue?" I did not. So after each fight, I would search the field for anyone near my size who did not require use of his equipment. I must confess to feeling very bad doing this, believing the dead should not be disturbed. But I had no other course. In just a few weeks, my uniform was the equal of anyone's. All right, so now we're going to go back through and we're going to highlight important information or key phrases and examples that we see in here that are showing how the Northern soldier is feeling about his uniform. So some of the key words that I saw in here were coarse and unpleasant. That really makes me think he's not liking this. Another one I saw was little nubbin it made him feel like a little nubbin of corn in a large husk. Now, if you're a little nubbin, that's just like a really small piece. And a large husk is kind of like the stuff that goes around a thing of corn. And so he feels like this tiny little piece of something insignificant inside this really big husk on the outside of him. So it seems like it's making him feel small. And then again, we see that nothing ever took down my ideas of military pomp quite so low. So again, it makes me think that he's not feeling the best about his uniform. Maybe it's not making him feel confident or something like that. Let's look at the soldier's firsthand account over here, and I'm going to highlight some key phrases that made me think how he was feeling about this. So we see that he was kind of happy with what he brought from home, but then he realized that he needed more. And so he started to look for it from the dead, and I see that he was feeling very bad doing this. He didn't really feel great about taking it from the dead because he thought that the dead should not be disturbed. That was another phrase that I got showing his emotions or how he was feeling. And he said, but I had no other course, and in just a few weeks his was the equal of anyone's. So I see that he was wanting his uniform to look like everybody else's, because he even would take it off the dead. Even though he felt bad about taking it off the dead, he wanted his to be equal with everybody else's. And so, oops, sorry, just trying to get rid of this tool here. Oh, there we go. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was going to disappear when I did that, but if you need to go back and just rewind a little bit so that you can get to the part where it had it highlighted. All right, so now we're going to make an inference about how this soldier was feeling, their opinion about their uniform. And so I'm just going to use this little sentence frame is what we'll use, and we'll fill it in. I can infer, that this soldier's, soldier's point of view about uniforms is, and we'll fill that in, and then I'll say, I know this because blank. Okay, and I'm actually going to copy this over here so that I don't have to type that again. All right, so looking at what we had highlighted up in this one, that it made him feel like a little nubbin of corn. It took down his ideas of military pomp. Pomp is like nice clothing and things like that, or having pride in your clothing. So all of these phrases that he used, it being coarse and unpleasant, I can really infer that this uniform, the perspective that this soldier has, is that he does not like them. He almost thinks that they're insulting. He keeps saying things like he feels like a little nubbin of corn, or nothing took down his ideas of what being in the military was going to be like. So I'm going to say I can infer that this soldier's point of view about uniforms is that they are insulting. This is not what he was expecting when he joined the military. And I'll write down some of the evidence. I'll explain some of the things that made me think that. I know this because he comments on how poorly the uniform fits and how it makes him feel little or small, like a little nubbin of corn. It took down his ideas. He's feeling low. And so I can infer that he thinks the uniforms are insulting. I know this because he comments on how poorly they fit and how it makes him feel little or low or small. Let's take a look at how the Southern soldier was feeling about his. So again, we were looking at this evidence that he liked the clothes that he brought, but then he almost felt like this peer pressure that he needed to have different uniforms, to the point where he would even take it off the dead, even though he felt bad about it. So I can infer that this soldier's point of view about his uniforms is that he wants a uniform so he can fit in with everyone else. And I know this because of these details about how he was even willing to take it off the dead in order to have his uniform be equal to anyone's. And so I know this because he is willing to take clothes off of dead soldiers to get a uniform for himself. All right, so now it never said that the northern soldier thought these were insulting, but we made the inference that he did because of how he keeps commenting on how poorly it fits and how it makes him feel little. It never said that this soldier wanted to fit in or match the other soldiers, but we could tell if he was willing to take it off of a dead body just so he had an equal uniform to everyone else's, we can make the inference that he wants to fit in with everyone else. So this is called making an inference about soldiers' points of view. So the last thing that we are going to fill in then is we're going to answer the question, are these soldiers' points of view similar or different? Why? So let's think back to some of the details from before. And the soldier's point of view is that they fit poorly, it makes them feel disrespected. And the southern soldier's point of view is that even though he feels bad about taking dead clothes off soldiers, he is really happy that he has a uniform like everybody else is. So that makes me think that their points of view are pretty different than each other. So I'm going to say the soldiers' points of view are different. The northern soldier's point of view is that the uniforms fit so poorly that they make him feel disrespected as a soldier. Oops, I messed this up. Don't make the same mistake I did. All right, so the northern soldier's point of view is that the uniforms fit so poorly that he feels disrespected as a soldier. Now I'm going to use a contrast phrase because we're showing that they're different. So I'm going to say, on the other hand, the southern soldier's point of view is that even though he feels terrible about having to take clothing from the dead, he is thankful to have a uniform that looks like everyone else's. All right, so we can see that they're feeling differently about their uniforms, and so their points of view are different. All right, so you guys can make sure that you fill this out on your Handout 8A. Your assignment, when you finish this, is going to complete the second half of 8A on your own with a partner. And so the second half is going to be all about the soldier's perspective about their officers. How did the northern soldiers view their officers, and how did the southern soldiers view their officers? So you're going to use the same steps that we did. You're going to highlight phrases that are important and showing their opinions. Then you'll infer what their points of view are. And then on the last page, you'll say, are their points of view similar or different than each other? So you'll be comparing and contrasting their points of view. And when you are done, make sure you submit a picture of your work to Schoology. If you have any questions, please, please, please ask your teacher. All right, nice job today. Bye.